Why did Ron and Lavender's relationship seem to have so many ups and downs? What did the relationship look like if it was only one-sided? Follow us on this magical Harry Potter What If as we explore what would have happened if Lavender took matters into her own hands to gain Ron's affections. Ron's 6th year began with a lot of pent-up emotions and confusion. He felt overlooked by everyone that was around him. Fred and George had become more than successful with their shop in Diagon Alley. He initially was rather proud of them. However, when he, Harry, and Hermione visited the shop before school had started, he could feel the emotions building. Another 2 siblings became incredibly successful, and what was he good at? Bill worked at Gringotts, Charlie worked with dragons, and Percy was working his way up the ministry. Harry had learned that he was the chosen one, destined to take on Voldemort. Although Ron remained by his best friend's side, he couldn't help but feel a tinge of jealousy as even his friend was more famous than before. On top of that, Harry had been named Quidditch captain after Angelina had graduated from school the previous year. While he didn't expect to be the captain, Harry had been playing far longer than Ron had. He felt as if he had more to prove. He had only been playing keeper for 1 year. And rumor has it that Cormac McLaggen was trying out for the same position. McLaggen had been infatuated with Hermione for some time, and he was definitely better looking than Ron was, or at least that's what the Weasley boy thought. So if he were to steal his position on the team, that would only give Ron another reason to think he was inferior. Ron received his first confidence boost when he did in fact make the team. He wasn't sure what had gotten into McLaggen during the second half of tryouts, but Ron was playing far better than he thought possible, and McLaggen was playing the worst he ever had. That did not last long, however, as Hermione and Harry had both been invited by the new potions professor to join his exclusive club. Ron had not been extended the invitation, and whenever Slughorn did talk to him, he usually called him by the incorrect name. He grew jealous of the increasing time that Harry and Hermione were spending together, convinced that there was attraction between the two of them, and making his feelings feel inferior. Though lost in his own thoughts and care for Hermione, he didn't seem to notice that his best friend had, in fact, gained attraction for his sister. Everything built up and began to affect him in other areas of his life. He became short with people and even snapped at a new player on the Gryffindor team for messing up a play. Harry had threatened to take him off the team if he didn't shape up. He felt even more nervous going into the first Quidditch game of the season. He was convinced that he wasn't a good Quidditch player. His best friend was mad at him, and Harry and Hermione were spending far too much time together. There was no way he was going to be any good to the team. "I'm resigning from the team." Ron sat across from Harry at breakfast. "McLaggen can have my spot." "Ron," Harry tried to respond, only for the Weasley to continue talking. "I'm playing like shit, and I'm certainly not acting like a team. You're just nervous." Harry shook his head, but he could see that his friend wasn't convinced. "Let's see how today's game goes, and if you're no good, I'll replace you. Deal?" Ron stared at his friend for a moment, unconvinced, but reluctantly agreed. "Fine. Here." Harry pushed a cup and a plate of food towards Ron. "You'll need your strength." "What is that?" Hermione questioned as Harry slipped something into his pocket. "Felix Felicis?" Her eyes went wide. Harry looked between the two, knowing he had been caught. "That's cheating. You could be expelled." Hermione protested. Ron took a long look at the cup in front of him. "Don't drink it, Ron." He ignored Hermione, downing the entire glass of pumpkin juice. He sat still for a moment, as if allowing the potion to take effect. "Come on, Harry. We've got a game to win." The Quidditch game was the best that Ron had ever played. Gryffindor won, and a celebration quickly erupted in the common room. Ron looked for Hermione, however his mind kept switching to a different person, and somehow his eyes kept landing on her. Lavender Brown. She had been flirting and making passes at him all year, and it wasn't until his eyes landed on her that night that he thought of her as anything other than a fellow Gryffindor. Now, as he looked at her from across the room, she became all he could think about. He became so infatuated with her that he had missed the conversation where Harry had told Hermione that he hadn't actually given him the liquid luck potion. He didn't register the team cheering for his success in helping him with the game. Lavender crossed the room and approached Ron. Neither said anything. Instead, Lavender pulled Ron in for a kiss. Ron didn't notice his affections for Hermione slowly disappear, nor did he notice the other girl leave the room in a huff. Lavender had bided her time carefully. It was clear that Ron wasn't showing her any attention. No one had. No one ever had. She wasn't the prettiest girl in school. She wasn't the smartest. She didn't have any extraordinary talents. Or at least that's what she thought about herself. She was completely ordinary. To see someone else that seemed just as ordinary as she was, overlooked by most around them, and he was kind and caring on top of it. Lavender became obsessed, and it worsened when he didn't even look in her direction. She didn't know what else she could do to get attention. Ron and Harry always sat in the same spots each morning. So the morning of the big game would be the perfect opportunity to take action. She sat a few spots down, waiting to know which cup would be Ron's. Harry and Ron were talking when she decided to take her move. Lavender stood from her seat and approached her classmate. "Good luck today, Ron." She leaned in close. Ron, Harry, and Hermione were all looking at her, caught up in the sudden motion that they did not see her pour a liquid into his drink. "I know you'll be brilliant." She smiled, squeezing his upper arm lightly before turning and heading towards the exit of the Great Hall. A love potion, rather easy to make, even for someone who did not pass her OWLs in potions. She knew the potion would only last 24 hours, but that would be enough time. If this worked, they could spend each morning together at breakfast and she could give him more of the potion. Lavender did not intend to use the potion forever, just long enough for Ron to develop real feelings for her. Long enough for him to see that they were so much alike. This continued until Christmas break. She had no way to give Ron the potion while he was at home. Lavender hoped that she had been giving him the potion long enough that he had actually enjoyed her company now. The opposite was true, however. Upon returning home and the potion wearing off, unbeknownst to Ron, he slowly began to realize how much he was getting annoyed with Lavender Brown. Ron and Harry spent the holiday without Hermione. And as Ron realized how much he was growing to dislike Lavender, he was also realizing how badly he had been treating Hermione. "So what's changed?" Harry questioned. "You were spending all your time with her." "Well, that's part of the problem. She doesn't want me hanging out with anyone else. If we're not in class, she's glued to my side," Ron complained. "And have you heard what she started calling me?" "One, you don't like that?" Harry laughed. "Would you?" Ron chuckled. When the two returned to school, Ron was determined to break it off with the girl. However, before he could, his attention to Lavender increased again. He had no way of knowing that she had slipped a love potion into his drink the moment that they had arrived in the Great Hall. Only this time, there were a few hiccups that would derail what Lavender was trying to do. She had been giving him so much love potion that it was not proving to be as powerful as when she started. Ron was building up a tolerance. She noticed that night at dinner when he was already growing annoyed with her antics. This time, when Lavender added the love potion to his drink, Hermione saw it. Hermione had come into the Great Hall late, having been in the library longer than she intended. And just like that, Ron was paying attention to Lavender again. Hermione immediately told Harry of what she saw, exclaiming that they needed to tell a teacher. Harry was doubtful that a teacher would believe them, given that Hermione and Ron had been avoiding each other all year. Instead, the two conspired to keep Ron and Lavender away from each other as much as possible. He was naturally growing sick of her. It was only the potion that was keeping them together. The next morning, Harry accidentally knocked over Ron's drink, causing the potion to spill as well. He could see the anger in Lavender, though she did a good job at keeping the feelings at bay. Ron was none the wiser, joking that Harry should have gotten a bit more sleep the night before. This continued for weeks. Lavender and Ron were spending less and less time together, though the two had not officially broken up. Rather, Ron was busy helping Harry figure out how to retrieve a memory from the potions professor that Dumbledore needed desperately. Harry and Hermione's plan had worked. Ron even talked of breaking up with Lavender. "Ron, I should tell you something." Harry said one night when the two of them were alone in the dormitory. "What's wrong?" Ron questioned, looking up from the card that his mother had included with his birthday presents. "There's a reason that you've gotten so annoyed with Lavender recently." Harry tried to approach the subject cautiously. "Yeah, I've finally come to my senses." Ron dropped onto the bed, taking a box of chocolates that sat on top of the pile of presents. He didn't notice who they were from, just opening the box and looking towards his friend. "Sort of, yeah," Harry nodded. "Hermione saw her giving you a love potion a couple weeks ago. So she and I have been keeping Lavender away from you so that she couldn't dose you again." Ron's smile dropped. "I'm sorry, Ron." Harry shook his head. "We were going to tell you sooner, but we needed to make sure you weren't under the effects of the potion when we did. Lavender wouldn't do such a thing." His mood suddenly shifted. "She's great, isn't she?" Ron had a cheeky grin on his face as he continued. "She's always caring for me and wants to know where I am. I should go see her before we go to bed." Harry got himself from the bed, taking the lid to the chocolates. He let out a defeated sigh when he saw Lavender's name scribbled across the top of the box. "Come on, Ron." Harry pulled his friend to his feet. "Let's go find Lavender." Harry was going to use this situation to his advantage. He needed to stop the effects of the love potion, and he needed a skilled hand to do it. By someone that he had been trying to get close to all year. Professor Slughorn was hesitant to allow the boys into his private study, as he had been avoiding Harry for some time now. But upon seeing the condition of Ron, he opened the door. It was an easy fix, a quick elixir that Slughorn mixed together and claiming it as a tonic to convince the Gryffindor to drink it. The giddy smile on his face disappeared. What happened? A very powerful love potion. Harry patted his friend on the shoulder. "She's trying to kill me." Ron dragged his hand through his hair. While Lavender may have had true feelings for Ron, she lost any chance of gaining his love when she first poured that potion. When her first potion was growing ineffective, she moved up to something far more powerful. Harry did not report her to the professors, feeling that she had learned her lesson when Ron ended up in the hospital wing that night from a poisoned drink poured by Slughorn. The magical world of Harry Potter is full of untold stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what magical journey we take next.